Hi everybody, today's topic is the LORAC Mega Pro 3, and ever since this has come out, I've seen loads and loads of questions on my channel about it. So for the past few holiday seasons, LORAC has been releasing a large eyeshadow palette that contains basically double the amount of eyeshadows that you would get in a regular, like LORAC Pro 1 or Pro 2. You get 2 rows of mattes at the top, 2 rows of shimmers, and in this particular palette, it's a lot of neutral, a lot of warm neutrals with some cool neutrals thrown in here and there. Let's start off with the pros, the things that I like about this palette. First off, consistency. LORAC's quality of eyeshadow seems to stay really consistent, not only from what you already know about the brand and what you've come to expect from their eyeshadows. If you're a fan of their shadows, the way they feel, the textures, the way they are to work with on the eyes, you're getting that in here. I do think they're some of the most pigmented shadows out there, and I love working with both mattes and shimmers from this line. And in this palette, I feel like I am getting what I would expect quality-wise, and I also feel like there's a lot of consistency throughout the whole palette. Like, I like the mattes over here just as much as I like the mattes over here. And the same story with the shimmery shades. I don't feel like I was running into hit and miss shadows all over the place. Shade selection is somewhere between a hit and a miss for me, because are these shades pretty and wearable? Absolutely. Can you get some great looks with these colors? Sure thing. But, I mean, does it excite me that much? The one thing I'm trying to get past in my mind, the one thing that I think is really exciting me about this is just the fact that it's new. Like, oh, it's the latest big LORAC palette for the holidays. I'm excited. But then, you know, I get it in my hands and I start doing looks with it, and it's just kind of like leaving me wanting a little bit more in terms of excitement. There are so many neutral eyeshadow palettes out there. LORAC themselves already have a bunch of great neutral eyeshadow palettes. So I feel like when one of these Mega Pros rolls around, it just makes me want something a little bit extra. Not that it has to be anything in addition to eyeshadows, but just something within the eyeshadows that makes them pop a little bit more. I was really excited about the Mega Pro 2 last year, the one in the navy blue packaging. I thought they had just some really interesting and unexpected pops of shadow happening in there. And I wouldn't even go as far as to call it like a colorful palette. It had a lot of neutrals, but it just went in certain directions that made me think, wow, that'll cause me to do something a little bit different with my eyeshadow. And I got a lot of use out of that palette. Here, I'm seeing shades that I have seen over and over again in this neutral palette world that we live in. For $59, this is what you're getting, and the most condensed way I can speak about this palette is that if you get it, I do not think you will be disappointed by the quality of the shadows that are in here, but if you do already own a lot of neutral palettes, I don't know that you're going to be that excited about this shade selection, just saying. These are my personal opinions, I'm just calling it like I see it. Maybe you are just entering the world of eyeshadow brand new to palettes, and you think this would be a good place to start. From that perspective, maybe so. Everything in here is really nice quality, and if you especially like your warmer neutrals, I think you've got a lot to play with here. Let's jump in and look at some of the swatches. I'm going to go row by row. So your top row of mattes, you do have a light shade in pink cream that maybe you could highlight with, some really easy kind of soft crease transition type colors, a nice little trio of mauve to eggplant shades, and also a dark navy. Your second row, just as consistent with the quality in my opinion, but this is the row I think of as like basic neutral city here, because you've got your light beiges moving into medium browns, a dark brown, ultimately a jet black that is really, really black and really good. Now your next 2 rows are shimmery. So you've got Snow, which is going to be that really bright, shiny white highlight type shade. Cider is one of a couple highly metallic shades in this palette. Bellini with a little more peach. Really do like Brown Sugar and Sequoia, you know, your dark shimmery browns, a lot of warmth in those shades too. And then Glacier and Deep Fog at the end of that row offer something a little more cool and just like classic smoky eye type look. Bottom row, a lot of warmth happening here with your first several shades, and then Rose Quartz, that's that rosy shade that is highly, highly metallic. A little disappointed that Olive on my eyes just doesn't show up very olive greenish at all. I'm wearing it all over the lids today. Pomegranate is like the one shade like raising its hand out of this sea of neutrals saying, hey, look at me down here. And then Licorice is like your dark black and plum with some shimmer. The way I feel about this palette kind of reminds me of the feelings I was having when the LORAC Pro 3 palette came out. You know, I look at it and I think pretty shades. Yes, I can get on board with what's happening here, but is it nearly as exciting and like iconic and memorable as the Pro 1? You know, it all comes back to this, but here, like, each shade has that unique personality. Each one stands out and has a real purpose. There is so much variety to be had in this palette. I think this is such an essential thing. If you take your Pro 1 and you pair with it your LORAC Unzipped palette, I feel like you've got just endless possibilities. This Unzipped palette, I don't know how many of you have tried this, but this is part of their regular line, but this feeds all of my needs for wine and rose gold and bronze. Like, it's a gorgeous palette, and you know, a lot of those same things are happening in here, but this goes, I think, maybe even further with a rose gold vibe. But these are just my personal opinions on this thing. You know, if you're coming here just to confirm that this is good quality and, you know, the swatches worked out well and whatnot, yes, it's good. Everything in here was really consistent. It's been nice to work with and easy to work with on the eyes, just what I'd expect from LORAC's palettes. But whether or not this shade selection really excites you, that's your own decision. You know, that's going to need to be made person to person, because I like what I see here, but I'm not jumping up and down over it. There's this little piece of me that says, couldn't they have put in a few things that were really different? But I am sure LORAC has decided that neutral palettes are what sell big. There's an olive green down here. I've got that olive green all over my lid, and I think it looks really muddy and doesn't look like olive green at all. I mean, the shade itself is a nice texture. It is what it is, but just the color they chose to put in there, I just feel like, well, dang. I do really enjoy what's happening up here, the mauves, the eggplant shades, but that's all happening in my Unzipped palette, and I really like that anyway. The thing I really have to keep asking myself throughout the whole holiday season of palettes is, am I excited about this thing just because it's new, or am I truly excited about it because of what it's going to do for me and how much I'm going to use it in the future? For this, I'm excited about it because it's new, and I can't honestly say I'm that excited about the shades in it. Now, as far as demos go with this, I didn't end up shooting a demo on this particular look that I'm wearing today, but I will insert another little tutorial just so you can watch some of these shadows in action. So for this look, I want to show you, I first primed my lids. I used my Smashbox primer, which I'm kind of testing against my Milani a little bit. Then, using a large brush, I just went all over my entire lid and under the brow space with the shade called Crepe. I think everything will go on a bit more smoothly with this all over. I used my E25 brush to apply Maple, which is a really warm brown, into my crease. Then we're going to cool this look down a bit with Glacier. This is this really pretty silvery shade. I patted that on basically the inner half of my lid, and then I overlapped with a little bit of Deep Fog. That's the state I woke up in this morning getting out of bed, and I patted that on the outer part and up into the crease just a little bit too. Then I used a black liquid liner across the upper lash line, winged out the outer edge. In my lower inner rim, I used this Aqua XL eye pencil from Makeup Forever in the shade M22. It's a nice blue, and I applied that to the inner rim and my lower lash line also, and went over it with a smudge brush. Then I pulled in dark navy to do some overlapping. This is not because dark navy isn't pigmented enough, but I'm trying to bring out more blue in it. That's sometimes my strategy when I do layering on the lower lash line like this, and added a little bit of Deep Fog as I got toward my innermost corner. I also used a little bit of dark navy with my small shadow brush just to deepen up the outer part of my crease. And then I thought a nice finishing touch would be to go back in with Maple and sort of reinforce that warmth on the border of this look as my sort of transition shade there. And then I applied mascara top and bottom, some false lashes. These are the Cocoa lashes in the shade called Misha, and that is your finished look. Kind of a smoky eye with just a hint of blue. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. You be the judge on this palette. You know what you like, you know what you'll use. I'm just trying to give you some information to go on, also my personal take on it. After doing a handful of looks with this palette, I mean, I just feel like the kinds of things I'm getting are the things that I could get with a lot of different eyeshadow palettes out there. Thanks for taking time to watch. Many more holiday reviews still to come, and I will see you next time. Bye.